let's bring in our panel, senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright and Simone Ledeen, who is the executive director of Maven Defense Solution and a former deputy assistant secretary of defense for the Middle East. Welcome to both of you. Kelly, to you first. We know that 8,000 troops or so were stationed at this base. Iran said that it was sending in the same number of missiles that the United States used Saturday night. So what are we learning more about these attacks against American forces, and how is the White House, specifically the president, responding?
Interesting question, John. The president was meeting with his national security team here at the White House shortly after those missiles started hitting. There were about 6 intercontinental ballistic missiles that were fired from Iran into Qatar at the Al Udeid air base. And we understand that as a result of that the United States was already prepared. Qatar had received stern warnings for them to bunker down and be prepared, as well as other bases throughout the Middle East. As far as retaliatory strikes from the United States, there are none. The president remains firm and committed to brokering a peace deal. This retaliatory measure was expected, and there were no casualties or injuries to any forces on the ground. Fortunately, no casualties to report.
Simone, as Kelly just stated, the White House was anticipating some type of retaliatory strike. The Department of Homeland Security is also warning of potential attacks right here on the homeland in the United States. How real of a threat is that, and how quickly could we see something develop?
When you're looking at something like this, it's important to assess not just the ability to conduct attacks inside the homeland, but also the desire, the will to do that. And there's a large body of evidence and work out there that talks about the very real sleeper cells that we do have in this country. And unfortunately, the last 4 years of the Biden administration also resulted in a lot of foreigners coming into this country that we don't know who they all are necessarily. So there is certainly a risk of some of them, being part of these sleeper cells and wanting to conduct attacks, being able to conduct these attacks. But given the incredibly weak showing of the Iranian regime, the near total dismantlement of many of Iran's terror proxies by Israel, you really have to wonder if these networks here in the United States are going to want to activate at this time, even if they are ordered to do so. I would also say that there's been so much attention on the communications and different, different signals that Iran is sending. And so I think that when a warning like this comes out, I do believe it's because there is some material information behind it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a warning. So I would certainly take it seriously. But Iran, the regime, is really at a crossroads right now. President Trump, I'm sure, will still accept, a road to peace, still wants an end to hostilities. But with Iran, if Iran continues to take actions, this retaliatory action, perhaps not the most effective, and maybe it was meant to be not effective. So perhaps, we can move forward and a new day of peace can dawn. Not that I am completely, not that I believe it, but it's possible. It's possible.
Kelly, speaking of moving on in a new day, on the topic of regime change, today we heard from the exiled Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of the Iran's last Shah. He basically said that Khamenei should step down and help lead a peaceful transition if that current regime does fall. Is this something that the White House is taking seriously, and could we see the U.S. potentially quietly support opposition leadership without officially endorsing a change?
Well, the president has made it clear on Truth Social that regime change is an incorrect political word. It's not politically correct. At the same time, however, he does see the possibility of a MAGA-type action taking place in Iran, where people would make Iran great again. He has not addressed what the Reza Pahlavi has talked about, but the White House is considering everything in terms of trying to get people back to the table, negotiate a peace, and possibly have some sort of change from within the regime.
All right, Kelly Wright and Simone Ledeen, thank you so much for your time and your insights this evening on this very important and developing story.